and welcome everyone. Thanks for attending today's meeting. In front of you, you have the minutes from October 26th. You had a chance to review those. If I can get a motion to approve those minutes.
This is Terry. I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Terry. And a second?
This is Kevin. He seconds it.
Thank you, Kevin. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. All righty, the motion carries. Thank you. We'll open the meeting for public comments. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak this afternoon?
Were we expecting any guests that may not have this new link?
No, I hadn't heard from anyone, no.
Okay.
All right, seeing none, we will close the meeting for public comments. Kelly? You have a memo here?
Yeah, and I think Carolyn is going to share the slides. I just have a few to run through quickly. So if you go to the next slide, the first item under the environmental program is the TMDL annual report. So just as a reminder, we do this annual report every year as part of the voluntary agreement that we've signed with the state as far as implementing measures to reduce phosphorus per the phosphorus total maximum daily load on Lake Macatawa. So we initially signed that agreement in 2000. It was renewed in 2010. And so you can see the pattern. It did expire this year. So we have not yet renewed that. I have been working with Eagle staff and the point source dischargers to modify that agreement. So I'm hoping to bring a modified agreement to the policy board at the next meeting for your review and approval so we can get that agreement back in place. So the TMDL itself establishes a goal for Lake Macatawa of no more than 50,000 pounds per year of phosphorus input and to achieve an in-lake concentration of 50 parts per billion. So those are the numbers that we're watching and tracking. When the TMDL was written in 1999, that equated to a goal of reducing the amount of phosphorus entering the lake by 83,000 pounds per year. So that's what we're trying to track. And so we've got two different sources of phosphorus, the point source dischargers, so the ones that are regulated. So these are like industrial wastewater discharges. We've got 3 in the watershed. I've got the next slide will show a graph of those. So those are actually measured discharges. They know exactly how much phosphorus is being discharged out of their plants. And then on the non-point source side of things, that's everything that's washed off the land in both our urban and rural areas that we model those reductions. So based on the work that we've done over the past year and how we've modeled those reductions, we were able to estimate about 3,700 pounds of phosphorus reduction just this past year. So that brings a 9-year total, and those are just the years that I've been with the MACC, to just over 32,000 pounds. And then from what I can tell in historic records, prior to that, we were able to document about 23,000 pounds per year. So if you add that up, you can see that's a kind of a significant portion of that 83,000 pounds, but there's a lot of assumptions that go into this data. First of all, it is modeled, so models are only as good as the data you put into them. And then it also assumes that these practices we put on the ground continue to achieve the same amount of phosphorus reduction each year, which probably is not the case. So the number that we really are watching more closely is that in-lake concentration. Carolyn, if you can go to the next slide. So here's just a look at the point source discharges of phosphorus since the TMDL started. So under that 50,000 pounds per year goal, the point source dischargers are allocated 20,000 of that. And so you can see historically they have operated well below that, and they are certainly committed to doing that. I will note that the data here for 2020 is only for 9 months of the calendar year. So the rest of those bars represent a full 12 months. And I guess of note here is I was not able to get the data from Mead Johnson this year, but again, historically, you can see theirs is a very small fraction of the overall. Next slide. So again, what we're really looking for is that in-lake concentration. And so the way that we are monitoring that currently is through the efforts of Project Clarity. They've been working with the Grand Valley Innis Water Resources Institute to conduct monitoring on behalf of the watershed to track where we are towards meeting that goal. So you can see that little dashboard there. If we reach 50, we're in that range of meeting the goal, but that really isn't the ultimate goal. Our ultimate goal is to get below 25. And then you can see that the bar chart there, kind of that historical amounts of phosphorus. It certainly fluctuates every year, but you can see the recent trend. There's that blue line at 2013. That's when Grand Valley started monitoring, so the data prior to that is not theirs. But you can see that the trend is going in the right direction. Now this is for 2019. They have been monitoring in 2020. We don't have that data yet, but we will share that with you when we get that. So are there any questions about the TMDL report? Okay, if you want to move to the next slide, just want to give a really brief summary of the watershed annual meeting. So last Monday evening, we held our annual meeting, which certainly looked a lot different than it has in the past. First of all, we knew we were going to have to hold it virtually. And we always work with Hope College's Advanced Environmental Seminar students to have them present at our meeting. So we had to move it earlier because their semester ends this week. And then we accommodated their class schedule by holding the meeting in the evening when their class meets. So I think that having it in the meeting may have impacted our attendance. We still did have pretty good attendance at the meeting. So the first half, the students gave their presentations, and you can see the titles listed there. We did record the meeting, so if you want to watch these student presentations, those are available on our website. And then the second half of the meeting, Dan Callan from the ODC Network gave a Project Clarity update. I went through MACC accomplishments, and then Maggie Outsma from the Grand Valley Innis Water Resources Institute did the 2019 monitoring update. So again, that portion of the meeting was recorded, and that's available on our website. Next slide. So the other thing that we recently published was an actual annual report, so that you should have received a link to that in your policy packet. So this is the information I presented at the annual meeting, and it's in much more detail in the actual published annual report. But I just wanted to kind of highlight really quickly here, you know, this year certainly looked a lot different. We didn't have the opportunity to do the in-person outreach events and the number of volunteer events that we typically do. So we certainly increased our social media presence. And then beyond that, though, we've been able to make a lot of progress with the grants that we've had. 2 new grants started, and we've made considerable progress under our Great Lakes Commission grants, and then moving our Sustainable Watershed Funding Initiative forward. So again, a lot more detail about all of these projects within the annual report, so I encourage you to take a look at that when you get a chance. So that's all I have, unless there are any questions.
Any questions for Kelly?
Yeah, what is a fish-friendly car wash kit?
Well, I'm glad you asked. So this has been something that has been on our kind of to-do list for public education for a while now. So basically what it is it's for charity car wash groups to use to direct the dirty wash water out of the storm drain and either into a sanitary drain or into a grassy area where it can infiltrate. So there's actually a barrier, a water barrier that they would set up, a pump and a hose so they can pump that dirty wash water somewhere else. So Carl Van Fossen from Holland Public Schools actually put these kits together for us, and he put together an instructional video that's on our website. We haven't really moved forward with kind of promoting and advertising it yet, just based on the uncertainties with COVID and with what the area schools were doing. But our intention would be to market that through the school athletic directors for those groups that might be doing charity car washes, and then also through school or church youth groups. And then I'd also like to get to some of those kind of the parking lot owners that host those to make sure that if they're allowing a car wash in their parking lot, that they're requesting that they borrow and use one of these kits.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Kelly? All right, thank you, Kelly. Appreciate all that you do for the MACC and the watershed. Greatly appreciate it. All righty, next on the agenda, transportation programming. Don, do you have any updates? Tyler?
You guys hear me?
Yeah.
I think I talked about, but the fiscal 21 budget was approved. Includes $600 million from the general fund. That's for Act 51. That's part of the 2015 revenue package, and that goes through the cities, villages, counties, and MDOT. So if there's any good news out of 2020, that's probably the only good news. But aside from that, that's all I really have.
Don, do you have anything? Donna? Tyler, what can we anticipate for projects happening in the region next year?
Next year, well, I think we talked about it a little bit before, but probably doesn't hurt to keep reminding folks, is we have westbound I-196 from approximately M40 to about the Kalamazoo River. Westbound only, eastbound was done a few years back. That's a full reconstruct. I believe that's bonded money, actually. So that is, so that'll be gearing up next year. Then in 2022, there'll be I-196, again, westbound between basically Hudsonville and the Zeeland exit. And then also in 2022, there's some work on US 31 from I-196 north to about 32nd. We'd like to kind of talk about this a little bit more as we move forward. There's also some projects in Grand Haven which will probably impact traffic diversion. And I think it'd be worthwhile to talk about it with this group sometime next year when we have a little bit better of a timeline and construction scheduling. But those are some of the big ones to be aware of.
Okay. Yeah, just let us know, let staff know, and we'll put you on the agenda so we can discuss that further.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Yep.
All righty, next on the agenda is a presentation by Model Communities. The MACC serves on the Model Community board there, and working with Peter as well as Travis. We thought it'd be beneficial for the MACC organization to present to the Model Communities, present to the MACC organization about potential, an update on Grand Rapids Community College with potential for maybe a future millage. So Travis, I'll turn it over to you so that you can go ahead, and Peter as well, go ahead and discuss the proposed project.
Great, thanks, Tyler. So I'll share my screen here. So you all are gonna see my screen real soon. So first of all, for all those who know me, just to make sure that I'm keeping the lines clear here, I was actually contracted this summer through ODC to help lead the Model Community Initiative. So I'm still at ODC. I haven't gone anywhere. I just have an extra gig that I'm working on for our community. If you aren't familiar with Model Community, it is something that came out of a Future Search community strategic planning effort that many of you participated in back in 2010, essentially. 2011 kind of Model Community formed, and it has worked on various projects. It is a multi-sector CEO group, so essentially leaders from nonprofit industry, government, and private business. There's about 26 people total that sit on Model Community, and their goal is to kind of serve community, try to serve community needs that are not currently being met. So we're not trying to replace or do something in a, that competes with somebody else or another organization, but trying to seek out opportunities to make Holland and Zeeland community a better place to live, work, play, and learn is essentially the goals of the group. So I am working with that group, and I have the great honor of working with Pete Haynes, who's the superintendent of the Ottawa Area ISD, and Jennifer Owens, who is the president of Lakeshore Advantage. Those two from Model Community are kind of co-chairing this effort, and Pete is here today to present with me. So we'd just like to share with you kind of what's going on, and just to kind of give you the quick summary is that I'll start clicking through this presentation here. So as many of you probably have known, you've seen that, and if you live in Holland Township, Terry is keenly aware of this, I'm sure, that the GRCC campus is going in the old J.C. Penney building and those shops at West Shore. And previously, GRCC had facilities all around the community. They're operating at the Thompson MTech Center out at the ISD. They've operated out of West Ottawa, the Grand Valley campus by Meyer. And they consolidated all that. They're going to be consolidating all that to this one location in our community, opening in the fall of 2021. So, and if you look at Ottawa County and the students that are served, there's a pretty good population. I'd say that you can read those stats on the screen, but about 2,000 students a year from Ottawa County go to GRCC for training, job training, or starting their degree of some form. And that's something that has been a huge asset to our community, and it's been identified as something that we want to make sure continues to exist. And we want to make sure working with GRCC, we can maximize that opportunity. So one of the things, though, is we're excited that we have GRCC here, but what a lot of people don't understand is that we kind of have a limited version of GRCC. So if you are attending Grand Rapids Community College and you are from Ottawa County, you pay an out-of-district rate. Whereas if you were from Kent County and you're part of Kent County has a millage that was passed for that, if you are part of their in-district services, then you pay less than half of the rate because the millage dollars kick in. So we have definitely a disadvantage for our community, and we only are getting kind of this limited friendly version of GRCC here. So people are paying more resources for it, and a lot of the services that GRCC offers are in Kent County. And so anybody from here that wants to get those services would have to go to Kent County to get those. So Pete, you want me to keep going, or you want to jump in at any point?
I'll take this one. So that difference that people may not understand really all comes out of the fact that the people who live in Kent County pay millage. In addition to their tuition dollars and in addition to the allocation they get from the state to operate their programs, they collect local millage. Well, that local millage helps them cut the cost to the actual user, whether that's a traditional age student or someone who's employed in an area business, and that business might be sponsoring their enrollment. So if you look in Kent County, they generate considerable millage every year, and that's why they run full programming and can do it at a considerable discount to what they have to charge for a student here in Ottawa County. The difference is about $130 a credit hour. It's like Travis said, our students pay a little more than twice as much per credit hour, whether it's the student themselves, their parents, or their employer. And the difference is over a 2-year degree, that's a little under $4,000 more that it costs that person without collecting that millage. Next slide. These two screens really just show all of the different intermediate school districts, and on the left, that's because when the community colleges began, and when they began forming, often they did so in partnership with intermediate school districts. The map on the right shows you the current community college attendance districts, and you'll see that they roughly align with counties, and that there are an awful lot of counties in white that don't have their own community college. We're one of them. What that map does not show is where are the population centers and the economic centers in the state. you all know where they are and take a look at them, because we're the only one that is a significant population center and economic center that does not have its own community college. In fact, we're the largest county in the state without a community college by more than double. The next one would be Livingston County, and they're a little less than half our size. They do not have a community college. They also have about a 4% poverty rate, where ours is in the mid-30s. Next slide. So truly, this is about talent. And we here in Ottawa County, we hear our employers tell us that that is their number one economic concern, being able to attract the talent that they need. Community college is the most efficient and affordable way to access skill development programs, especially for those who are first generation or might have economic challenges that others don't have. Next slide. This is actually a slide from Lakeshore Advantage, and they like to hold us, compare us to other communities with similar demographics or similar economic strategic goals. And if you look at where we are in terms of the percentage of our population who holds a bachelor's degree, we're not so impressive, and we're not going to keep up with those areas around the nation where they really are at the cutting edge. You take a look, we're only slightly above Allegan County to our south. And there are a few who would consider our economic situation as something that should be competing with Allegan County. Next. So here's the confusion. We've looked at several options. How do we close that gap for our students who might want to attend community college, but it's financially out of reach? Fact is, a student in poverty, and we have a fair number, especially in the Holland area, who are going to qualify for a full financial award, and those come in the form of Pell Grants. Grants are something that a student doesn't have to pay back, so that truly is a leg up. Problem is, a full Pell Award for a student in high poverty is not enough to pay for out-of-district community college attendance. They fall short by about $3,000 over the 2-year plan. We've thought about, do we generate, rather than pay millage, what if we set up some kind of a foundation and awarded scholarships to our students to close that gap? Problem is, with those federal awards, any award that a student might get outside from a scholarship or grant gets deducted from their eligibility for the Pell Grant. So they never close that gap, they just lose the federal money. So our students face a pretty significant uphill challenge if they're a student in poverty of ever going off to college. It gets worse because, as Travis said, what we have locally is just a fragment. To get full programming, students are going to end up driving to Grand Rapids for most of that program at some point. And that means transportation is another barrier. And I will tell you what happens to a lot of our students. They might sign up, they might start going to classes, and then fall hits and they hit bad weather, or the car breaks down and they're done going to school. They withdraw and they're finished. Next slide. We like to think of ourselves in Ottawa County as pretty high socioeconomic. Our demographics are strong, and they are. We're certainly above average in terms of economic strength, family level of income. But we still have over 35% of our students who are in poverty, especially in the Holland area. And they are likely to qualify for that full financial scholarship, and they're likely to be very dependent upon that. Next slide. What it would cost is pretty significant, and it's truly an investment. Because Grand Rapids Community College already levies operational millage in Kent County, they have to match that exact same millage in any community that annexes. I will share with you, up until just a few years ago, the only way to join a community college district was for the entire county or ISD to join. So we would have had to all join as Ottawa County, for example. That changed in a bill introduced by our own Representative Amanda Price. She wrote the bill. The bill made it all the way through the legislature, was passed and signed into law, that allows for non-contiguous portions of other counties to join an existing community college district. One of the conditions is they have to pay the same millage level. Millage is 1.7472 mills currently. I believe they originally approved up to 1.9, but it has rolled back due to Headley over the years, so it's down right now to 1.7472. If a family had a $150,000 home in the Holland area, that would cost them about $130 a year additional to their property taxes. That would be done on a district by district, K-12 district by district vote. We are going to recommend that we consider Holland, West Ottawa, and Zeeland public school districts currently. It could pass in 1, 2, or 3, and wherever it passes, that community gets access to in-district, and that community pays the new levy. Next slide.
Just showing the map.
Yep, this just shows you those district boundaries.
So to just jump in, we have currently this, and I don't expect you to read this whole thing, but this is just kind of a snapshot of the timeline that we're looking at. And again, we're exploring this opportunity. What we would like to do as a group is, and we have some funding that's been contributed to allow this to happen, is to do an EPIC MA poll probably in January that would help us identify the likelihood of success of such millage and really look at what are the maybe misconceptions, what are the things that we would have to address if we wanted to pass a millage. And then there's kind of all the steps that you need to work through after that if it's determined to go forward. And we're currently targeting at the earliest November 2021 as our election point for that. And that date was chosen because there really isn't a lot of other stuff on the ballot. Then there were no other schools, at least from the 3 that we're talking about, that we're expecting to have a ballot initiative. Hamilton may, and that's why they're not in the 3 that are recommended, because we don't want to have any kind of conflict and competing interest on there. So, and again, we're exploring this opportunity right now and exploring the options we have in front of us to see if there's a pathway forward or not. So that starts with doing a little research and getting some feedback from the community as to how successful this may or may not be. And then just a little bit of background on things. So a lot of times people are asking questions, what's the return? What's this going to cost us? This is just a rough estimate based on a lot of assumptions from an accounting standpoint, but about $6.5 million is the estimated net revenue from the millage from those 3 districts to GRCC for doing this. And again, that's based on some of those assumptions and using 2019 data. Pete covered this pretty well already, but the in-district credit hour is $117, out of district is $247, so that's where we get that $130 difference. And again, this savings can be not only just to the individual, but we have numerous employers, major employers that we all know about in our community that send a lot of employees to get training, certificates, certifications, or they're partnering in apprenticeship efforts. And if they're covering those tuition costs as the employer can benefit obviously from this as well. And we have met with many of our employers in the community, and there's significant interest in this moving forward. And then Pete, you want to touch on some of these things that are being added?
Absolutely. And I want to talk a little bit about the why. You see on this list, these are things that we immediately can imagine are likely to appear as full programs in our community because they're high demand, high wage, high need from our employers. But we have been assured by GRCC that they will use the same mechanism. They will bring area employers in as advisory to ask them, what programs do we need to develop? Because we know artificial intelligence is something that is desperately needed in our area. So we may see brand new programs that appear first in Holland before their mainstream programs on their main campus, but only if we've made the commitment and have them as a permanent presence through millage. They've listed electronics, welding, we know the jobs are there, hydraulics and pneumatics, machine tool, CAD CAM. They're gonna do a lot of lab space, and this is gonna be very cutting edge technology. There are other areas that they have already heard, certainly in the health careers, some significant needs, early childhood education, certainly. But those last 3 bullets on this page are what are most concerning to me, because those are the things that help a student be successful. If they had a full presence of a community college, we would have tutoring and academic advising and counseling services. What we have now are some classes located in a building in our community. To get any of those other support services, our students need to go into Grand Rapids. I need to talk to you about the why. We study data pretty carefully here in our K-12 setting, and I can tell you, and none of you are surprised to hear, that if you stack an Ottawa County student up against their demographic peers anywhere in the state or even across the country, but we have great data to compare our students across the state, our students are outperforming their demographic peers across the board in any metric you can pull. Early literacy, numeracy, math skills, high school graduation, SAT scores, college admission, application for federal financial aid. We are typically 1 to 2 standard deviations above our demographic peers in every one of those standard student achievement metrics. There's one place where we fall down, and that is after they graduate from our high schools, what percentage of our students go on and actually continue their education and pursue an advanced credential at college. And I'll tell you what, we're just average. We shouldn't be just average. We're 1 to 2 standard deviations above in every other metric, and here we're just average. And I will tell you, it's because of affordability. Our students with means who are going to go to a traditional 4-year school are going to those schools at a little between 1 and 2 standard deviations higher than their peers. It's our students who are first generation college attendees, students who are going to be those full Pell Grant Award winners, who probably would go to a community college first, who are just not going. And we're probably losing about 20% of our traditional age students who just never make it. If we partner with GRCC as in a full spectrum of services, we'll have an awful lot more support for our students, and they'll be able to actually complete those credentials in an affordable manner.
So GRCC is committed to having people be having like representatives from our community on some kind of leadership council to help, determine what things need to be brought to this community. They want to serve the needs of the community. They aren't just going to come in and set up whatever they want and we get what they want to give us, but they actually work with their businesses because their programs need to meet the needs of the companies in town and the need of the people going through their programs. So they have made that commitment as well. So are there any questions for Pete or myself on any of this?
I have a question. Yeah, great presentation, and just being new on the board, I don't always understand. I've got to figure out what you all do on this board, so forgive me for my ignorance. But with what you have planned, how come none of the trades such as plumbing, HVAC, electrician, that type of thing?
Those are clearly already baked into their existing programming. So that's stuff that the ISD partnership partners with them now. Quite often we're using our facilities, and I will share a lot of the high bay space. That's very expensive space to develop. So I'm going to imagine we're going to continue to partner with GRCC to offer those credentials.
Okay.
But it is a lot of not just degree programs. They are looking at skilled trade certificates as well.
Okay. And then when it comes to nursing, is this being just a 2-year associate's degree, does this allow some sort of advantage to get into a 4-year nursing program?
Yeah, what it does is it saves them about 1/3 of the money overall. But yes, those traditional bachelor's level programs, GRCC is not obviously going to award the bachelor's, but they do have articulation agreements with the 4-year schools, particularly in our area. They've got already pretty good relationships with Grand Valley, Davenport, Hope, Ferris that are existing, and they like to build programs that will segue into that advanced degree. And great part is once someone finishes a bachelor's degree from Grand Valley, there is no difference to that degree from the student who did all 4 years at Grand Valley versus is the one who did their first two at
Okay.
GRCC.
All
It's an
right, good.
identical credential.
Great, thank you.
And there's also stats that have been shared with us that actually President Scogan from Hope shared this, but they have a higher success rate actually of graduating a 4-year degree if they've started their 2 years out at a GRCC. So that's a compelling statistic too. And then knowing that your profession is in medicine, I will also tell you, I was talking with somebody from GRCC last week, and they actually had just ordered the cadaver that would be sent to GRCC's campus here in Holland
Oh.
for their nursing program. So they're bringing that kind of stuff to the new facility as well.
Okay, great, thank you.
I just want to, excuse me. I just wanted to add that my daughter in 2009, she hit every one of those barriers that you said for GRCC, the cost and the transportation issue. And she did go on to Grand Valley. You know, she struggled as a student, but it was a success story. And I know it was because we did get her to GRCC, but it was a rough start. But yes, you are speaking truth.
Our kids are at such a disadvantage for not having that full presence of a community college here.
Just
I
a
wonder if I
comment.
may make a comment here. I'm not afraid to say something that may be politically incorrect. I'll preface it by saying I'm not opposed to higher education, and I believe the community college system is a vital part of that. And I have a son who started at community college and went on to a university to complete his degree. My concern is with this method of funding. And as I'm sitting here, I'm going through some numbers in my head. What is this going to cost me? It's going to increase my personal property taxes 10%. I'm a small business owner. You know, I pay $12,000 or more a year in property tax. Incidentally, a property tax on which I have no vote, and I would not have a vote as a business owner on this particular tax or this millage. Incidentally, I also hit double as a small business owner or business owner because the residents of my area have decided to inflict on me an additional tax to support the school system over and above what a homeowner pays. Again, I don't have a vote in that. And it leads me to wonder whether there's not a challenge for this in the court system for taxation without representation. Now, again, as a small business owner, I have 2 employees. I don't need employees with a community college degree, and yet I would be asked to pay several $1,000s a year or more in property taxes to support something that is of no benefit to me. So these are issues that are going to be impediments to selling this in the community.
Yeah, just to add to what Tom just said, the 1.7, I believe, is going to be a heavy lift. You know, rightly so, there's lots of excitement regarding this program of GRCC, and we certainly welcome them to the community. But I'm sure you're aware that it's going to be 1.7, for instance, on the Holland Township's bill would be the highest community-wide millage listed on that bill. So it's, you know, I'm sure you're well aware of that, and you're looking at that. It's something you're going to have to sell. But anyway, it is exciting, and thanks for the presentation.
Yeah, we definitely are aware of that, both Tom and Terry. That's
our concern.
That's probably the one thing that gets talked about repeatedly, is why we're talking about this being exploratory before we even jump all the way into it. So it's a valid point.
And a very big ask.
Anyone else have any comments or questions?
So, Mr. Russ, I just had a question. If you don't do the millage till November, how quickly are you able to upgrade the services out of the local GRCC?
Travis, I don't know if you, that was choppy. I wasn't getting all that.
He's asking if how quickly would they upgrade the services locally to do these things? That's part of the millage.
Again, it won't hit their operating budget until the following year, because that's when they'll begin to actually levy those taxes. So it's probably going to be 21, 22 before you see real dramatic upticks in programming and services. But they expect to be operating out of the JCPenney building by fall of 2021. I would imagine that their existing partnerships with OAISD, with Grand Valley for facilities is going to help them with some more temporary access to facilities.
And do you have any idea of if the millage would pass, what you would see as an increase in student attendance?
Yeah, my best estimate, if all 3 of the communities were to pass it in traditional age students, it would probably mean as many as about 2,000 more per year. That's traditional matriculations. And you could just about double that from the employer base who is using GRCC for their skilled trades and certification programs. That's a rough estimate.
Well, one follow-up question is because you mentioned the local business skilled trade. Would that potential happen with or without the millage as well?
They're going to build programs, but they'll be charging a little over twice as much for any employer who uses them. That's just the way it's working right now. I don't know how impacted their ability to expand programs will be if it doesn't pass. What I can imagine is that if it does pass, that becomes steady, predictable revenue for the institution. And I can understand why then they're far more willing to commit to tenting up full program, because what we get now is kind of sporadic.
Anyone else have any comments or questions? All right, well, Peter, Travis, I want to appreciate you for being able to present this to us today, and especially for both of you as well as Jennifer and taking this on. I know it's a heavy lift, and it's something that needs to be done, and we thank you for that. So if there's additional information that needs to be shared, and we need to schedule a time for you guys to come back, I'd like to do that in a future date. So we'll keep everyone posted on this as we move forward. So again, thank you.
So much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty, next on the agenda, administration issues. In front of you, I've got a copy of the financial reports. If there are any comments or questions on that, please let me know. From the MACC Executive Committee report, a couple of things I'd like to highlight there. One of them is I had a discussion with the Executive Committee with regard to model communities, just letting them know where that is at with the Grand Rapids Community College project. Max Transit is also expecting to request a millage extension. I believe it's for 5 years. So I may have those folks come in at some point or at least have a Zoom meeting and discuss their future plans for Max Transit. A couple items with regard to staffing. Carolyn has informed us that she will be leaving at the end of this month. Kind of known that. I kind of knew that coming into the position that she may be looking to move to the Traverse City area, and indeed both she and her husband have found jobs up there. So I want to wish Carolyn the best. Thank you for her time serving with the MACC. We only got to work with her for about 9 months or so, but I've been very appreciative of her time and all of her efforts and the work that she's done with the organization. So thank you, Caroline. And then Rob let us know a few weeks ago that he would be leading the organization as well. He is again working for Nutrien Ag Solutions. That was his previous employer. They sought him out. I saw that the work that he was doing with the ag organization and found a position for him. So he has since left. I want to see if there's a partnership possibly to work with Rob on some things moving forward. And then I had a good discussion with Travis Williams as well as David Nitre with regard to the ODC network and the existing partnerships that we have and future partnerships in the future. So I'm going to continue to work with Travis and David on strengthening those relationships. Kelly's a big part of that as well as Mara. So we work with them a lot. I want to continue to work with them in the future. And we'll see what happens down the road. We've got to work on the watershed management update plan. That's going to consist of working with Project Clarity on that, as well as all the governmental agencies in the MACC area. So there's a lot to be had moving forward with those projects. So that's all I have with regard to the MACC Executive Committee updates. Finally, on the agenda for administrative issues is the MACC annual report. You each should receive a copy of that in the email. I copy here real quick. Just want to highlight a couple of things there. Kelly talked about a lot of the projects that were worked on within the watershed. With regard to federal aid projects, there's roughly $8.5 million of federal and state dollars that came into the MACC region this year. You can see in that report that in FY 21, 22, and 23, there's roughly between 45 million each year that'll be coming into the region, which is great. So those are big infrastructure projects that we'll be seeing in the very near future. As Kelly had mentioned, a lot of work going on within the watershed. Over 1,200 acres of cover crop were planted this year, which is great. It's great for the watershed. So if you just get a chance, I'd recommend that you just take a look at that report. It's only a few pages there. A lot of stuff that's being done within the organization here, and I want to appreciate the staff and the partnership with all of you on moving those projects forward. Member comments. Just like to reach out to a couple of our organizations to give an update. Port Sheldon, do you have anything that you'd like to speak about today? The rep here.
Good afternoon. This is Howard Bauman, and
hey, Howard.
I don't have a lot to report today. Our community, as well as the rest of them along Lake Michigan, has been struggling with erosion problems. Our private property owners, as well as the township, has 2 township parks. We've had to remove stairs and decking, and but I'm hearing that the lake is starting to recede a little bit, so hopefully it's going the other way. The other thing I'd like to report is that our residents did approve, actually our voters approved 2 fire millages for us this past November. One is for 0.65 for equipment and apparatus, and another one was a type of renewal for operating, 0.45. So that was good news that that voters supported that fire department, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Howard. Appreciate that information. Lake Township or Lake Town Township, Linda?
That's me. I can echo Port Sheldon in that our voters did renew our existing fire millage. But the big thing that we just completed was the complete relook and update of our master plan. We spent longer than we anticipated thanks to COVID, but we went through 3 charrettes a couple summers ago, did the complete rewrite, and then planned for a transitional zone between your traditional R1, R2 subdivisions and our larger ag districts. Because we had a number of 10, 20 acre parcels, some up to 30 and 40, that are not particularly viable for ag in today's world. But they were surrounded by the older lots that were anywhere up to 10 acres by themselves. So those folks were not thrilled with the idea of a condo development or a dense subdivision moving in right next door. So the Planning Commission spent a lot of time talking to the public that showed up for the various meetings about trying to come up with, if you will, an R1.5, so that you wind up with a little bit of a buffer zone between the higher density and then the rural estate. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that shakes out, in part because of COVID, in part because of the amount of time they spent on the master plan, their agendas are pretty packed right now. So I don't expect the Planning Commission to get to writing that particular zone ordinance real fast. Maybe next summer we'll do some more public meetings on that. But I got to give them a huge shout out because they did a tremendous heavy lift, and it turned out to be a really nice document that I think will carry us forward for the next 10 years.
Thank you for sharing. Great information. All right. Any questions or comments from members?
Hey, Tyler, this is the other Tyler real quick. I just want to say, Carolyn, thanks for all your help over the last few years. We appreciate it. We'll miss you down here, but good luck in your new career. And also, I'm a GRCC graduate as well. So just wanted to point that out.
Thanks, Tyler.
Thanks, Tyler. Carolyn, do you have anything to share?
Not too much. Yeah, just we closed on our house today, so it's been a big day. That was kind of the exciting part of moving. Yeah, and we're just gonna be over the next few weekends packing up boxes. We don't really have to be out of the house just yet, so that's been nice. Really going to miss so many parts about working with the MACC. Getting to know all of you over 7 years now. It's been a big part of my life, and most of you have been around that time as well. So it's been really an honor to get to work with all of you, and especially the last couple of years working specifically with transportation. So yeah, looking forward though to moving up north. It was kind of always a part of our future plans to be closer to friends and family. And yeah, the new position up north will be fairly similar. The two projects that I'm excited about that will be kind of the first things I'll have to work on. There's the A2TC rail line between Ann Arbor and Traverse City. So they've already made quite a few a lot of headway on that project. Some of the rail lines have been updated so that they can be certified for transit or for public rail rather than just cargo. So I'll be working on that project, which is exciting. And then also there's a TC Mobility Lab in Traverse City, which, it's all about pedestrian and cycle infrastructure, but a big part of that will be bringing a bike share program to Traverse City next summer. So those will be my first two projects.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
All right, just make notes, we will not have a meeting in December. So our next meeting will be January 4th. We will send that agenda out with the meeting. I assume we'll be meeting via Zoom. So again, thank you for everyone for your time today and participating in today's meeting. Have a happy holidays and be safe.